And in 1 minute, you're good to go.
Hello, just double check. Can anybody hear me here?
I can hear you, Brian.
Okay. Oh, wonderful.
Okay. Sorry, I was muted. You good to go?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Raul Hugh. I'll be your moderator for this session. And right now we have Mr. Larry Stoddard and Mr. Brian Thompson from the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. And this afternoon, they're going to talk about the Analytical Software for Threat Assessments, or Astra. The Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity has developed the Analytical Software for Threat and Risk Assessment tool, otherwise known as Astra, for to guide government and provide and private sector enterprises in assessing the threats and risks in their cyberspace. Astra has the ease of using of TurboTax software for threat risk assessments, or TRAs, asking users to input information from their environments, then providing them with an assessment of the status of their cybersecurity. Risks are ranked and recommendations are automatically provided to mitigate those risks. The Astra tool is nearing its final test phase and will be made available to the public shortly. The CCCS Internal Audit Group has prepared a cybersecurity audit program that is organized based on CCS publications, the top 10 cybersecurity threats. The audit program is an entry-level program that includes a cybersecurity governance section and a risk management section, as well as audit tests for each audit subcriteria. So to begin with, Mr. Larry Stoddard is a senior security architect with the security architecture unit of the CCCS. He is a retired communications officer from the Royal Canadian Air Force and has worked with CSC since 9/11. He's one of the authors of the ITSG 33, the lead security document for the Government of Canada for information security, and leads the development of functional requirements for Astra. Larry has a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Alberta. Brian Thompson is a lead developer of Astra. He is a graduate of the Algonquin College Computer Engineering Technology program and was part of the original team of students that developed the Astra as a class project. He was eventually hired by CSC after graduation to continue its development. I welcome Larry and Brian to the show.
Good afternoon. Oh, I'll go first. Okay. So welcome to our Astra demo. So I think we've been introduced as to what Astra is. So the history of Astra is basically it was a joint project between CSE and the RCMP, who are the joint developers of the HTRA methodology used in the Government of Canada for doing TRAs. And Astra is basically software for doing an HTRA. It follows exactly the HTRA methodology, although there is a modified version that's used for working with ITSG 33, where we use ITSG 33 inputs and outputs like TD levels and robustness levels and things like that, that the classic HTRA doesn't natively have. And then that just makes it easier to do an HTRA if you're working in the ITSG 33 environment. What we'll demo today, though, is basically the basic HTRA mode of the Astra tool that follows closely exactly the documented HTRA methodology. And so I'll let Brian take the lead, and he will conduct the demo, and then we can have some questions and hopefully answers at the end.
Great, thank you very much, Larry. And thank you everybody for your interest in participating in this little demonstration we've got. So the software I'm going to just show everybody here today. The objective we're going to work towards is kind of a very high level skim over what the application is kind of capable of. This is a enterprise level software. So this is networked, multi-user. It's authenticated using PKI at the moment. And kind of run through a scenario and give everybody an idea of what they can accomplish with a tool like this. So traditionally, the threat risk assessments, they were done rather linearly, usually with an Excel document with macros to kind of help with the headache that was the spreadsheet version of a TRA. And what this kind of introduced was the ability for assessors to put their own personal spin on things. For example, a department that required a TRA could hire 5 contractors, get 5 different TRAs, and then choose the best one for their use case, which is not really the intent of this. The intent is to find out that residual risk, get a really great understanding of what the site or system's security state is, and try to mediate any of the holes that we've identified in that. So what Astra did was break this linear kind of workflow into something a lot more agile, a lot more malleable to a department's use case and workflow. So in HTRA, we see asset threat vulnerability. ITSG 33, we see asset threat and control. These can all be worked on independently. Let's say a department with a good security standing has a team of asset specialists and threat specialists. Maybe each of those teams could work on the asset and threat listings particular for that department. And then an assessor can come grab all the information and pull it together into that risk, that thing in the center that we see here. Once we have our ordered list of risks, we can create recommendations on any of the ones that don't meet our requirements, and then generate a report out of that. What we're going to cover in the live demo today is rather ambitious, but I think if I speak very, very quickly, we'll be A-okay. So we're going to assess a risk scenario for a bank. We're going to stay in the HTRA section for the first half of this, come up with a scenario in a bank where we have our asset, the gold, the threat, our bank robber. We're going to take a look at our safeguards, and we're going to have this scenario where we accidentally forgot to put some in. We're going to create a risk scenario out of that, showing the error in our ways. And then since this is the enterprise version, we're going to add another user to that project. That user is going to kind of assess that risk scenario, make a recommendation on it, and then we're going to kind of fast forward a little bit in time. Maybe we're reassessing this site, and the recommendation that our second user had made will be implemented. We'll have gone through all the channels, agreed upon, and put in place. So we're going to make the change to the project and see the live update to that. Similarly to seeing the change, we are going to take a little bit of a dive into what a template is in terms of the software. And a very quick example of this, template is something that creates a repeatable baseline that we can start a project from or import into a project after the fact. We're going to create a new project from the template that we just created. We're going to review and complete a few things, and then import a control profile into that project. So this new project and completed template items, the scenario we're going to be looking at there will be in a situation where we've got multiple TRAs being created that all start in the same place. So maybe with view to the RCMP, there's detachments all over Canada. All of them have a certain base level that they all have in common with each other. So maybe making a template out of all the items and then propagating that template to the different detachments. They could use that as a starting point. Maybe your department is doing repeated TRAs on maybe instances of a system that is spread across various zones, but all of those things kind of start in the same place. So we'll kind of take that approach to it. We'll show that creating that template to a certain point using some incomplete items is going to give the user a starting point that they'll just have to check a few boxes and actually get a risk scenario out of that. And we will move into the demo from here.
Brian, we seem to have lost you.
Do I still have audio?
Yes, you do.
Wonderful. So my network connection just reset itself. I've got my screen back as soon as you can see me. Wonderful.
Yes.
All right. Sorry about the hiccup, everybody. So we're going to be taking a look at our bank scenario. Let's call it the bank of today. We're going to be creating this in an HTRA classic mode. This is going to pull all of our information in from the HTRA methodology. Conversely, we see the ITSG 33 compatible mode right beside this. This is going to apply the ITSG 33 overlay with some additional things. Categorization, we can see we categorize it right away. We're going to go with unclassified. We have some optional metadata that we can put in, but for now and for the sake of speed, I'm just going to skip over all of that. The language for the project is English and French. The application is fully bilingual on two levels, on a user level and on a project level. For now, we will create that project in English and set our authorizer's risk goal to low. Authorizer's risk goal is the amount of residual risk we are willing to take in. We'll submit that. We arrive at our landing page. We can see assets, 0, threats, vulnerabilities, and risks. And I'm going to move rather quickly through here and hopefully paint a wonderful tapestry with my words in that the asset we're going to create an item that is our gold. Our threat is going to be that gold robber or bank robber. Our vulnerabilities are going to be that we created this wonderful bank but didn't put any locks on the doors, so the robber can just walk in at their leisure and take the gold away from us. We're going to combine those 3 items into a risk to show that risk scenario. So starting off with this, we're going to create our gold as a tangible item. At a replacement cost, let's say this is $100,000 chunk of gold. And under our injury level, we're not too worried about the confidentiality integrity. We're mainly going to go after this availability. We'll stick it at high. We want our gold when we need our gold. Moving on to the threat, we have the option to bring things in from a listing or create them from scratch. So if we go into this listing, I'm looking for a thief or theft. So I can find a few things that give me a starting point. They're kind of hierarchically classified, and the individual we're looking for is this petty criminal causing theft. We'll bring him in, call him our bank robber. He is going to be a deliberate attacker. And we can see this information is pre-populated from that listing that I just grabbed from. So criminal acts, outsiders, petty criminals, all of that is from that threat listing. And that threat listing is a very basic inclusion kind of starting point provided with the HTRA methodology. So that's straight out of there. Got our confidentiality, integrity, and availability again. I cruise past this quite quickly over in the asset, but what this is going to do is kind of give us 3 vectors that we're going to calculate that risk on to give us an idea of exactly what is being attacked in our risk scenario. The availability, so our individuals may be coming after us every 10 to 100 days, same location, similar assets, and this individual has moderate skill, moderate knowledge. We've created our bank robber. They come in at a high. Then coming over to our vulnerabilities, we'll give a title on this. Let's just call it our front door. Class, all of this information is optional, so I'll skip by all that. And we can see probability of compromise, severity of outcome. We're going to leave those 2 fields as no safeguard. We have no lock on the door, so there's at this point not too much to define there. Hopping over to our risk, we're going to bring all 3 of those elements together in a scenario that we will call bank robber steals gold through front door. We'll grab our asset for that. Verify that this is in fact what we're looking for. Our threat. And our vulnerability. Up at the top here, we can see 3 radio buttons, single, parallel, and series, obviously because we only have 1 safeguard or lack of safeguard. We're just going to stay with the single, but the parallel and series gives the capability to the user to create semi-complex risk scenarios, anything that may be dependent on something. We can identify a few items that may come together to give a bit more complexity to something. Some examples of that, we already have our front door without a lock on it. So if we had that and say a window on the side of the building that had bars, we could bring both of those together in parallel. That would indicate that the threat actor could take one avenue or the other and make the calculation with the easiest possible route for the threat actor to get at our asset. So it would take the front door. The idea in series would be maybe we didn't have a lock on the front door, but we were smart enough to put our gold in a safe in the middle of the room. So in series, that threat actor would have to overcome that front door. That was super easy. And then get into that safe. So they would need additional tradecraft to get to the asset. We'll select that. Calculates our risk score. Going back to when we identified our asset and our threat, we left C and A, or C and I, confidentiality and integrity blank, so we're not getting calculations on that, but we did define our availability. We can see right there that the risk score on that is very high, or 80. So our user Roland has kind of done his part. We're at the end of what this portion of the assessment requires from us, and now we need to add another user to this project. We will add Maggie as an analyst, and they will come in and kind of assess the work that Roland did and come up with a recommendation for that. So we can see that Maggie now has access to the bank of today. She can go in, take a look at this risk and identify that, hey, whoa, like that safeguard isn't very safe. So we can make a recommendation on that. The risk that we're going to come up with is bank robber steals gold through front door. If we had, say, 10 or 15 risks, we'd see a rather large list of that. And opening it up, we can see the risk score broken up over those 3 vectors. Thing we have of interest here is that front door. So we'll select that and make a recommendation for it. So recommendation that Maggie is making is going to be to add a lock to the front door. Reason for this recommendation is that the front door is not protected. And the proposed changes add a lock to said door. Our options in this recommendation can be a few things. We can update them or remove them. And it is important to understand that the recommendation here is a fictitious solution. So what Maggie is doing in this instance is using her experience and know-how to come up with a solution to the problem. And Maggie can come up with multiple solutions to this problem by creating multiple recommendations. Having those multiple recommendations can offer insight into maybe what's most effective but most expensive, what's effective and least expensive. So we can kind of play around with a few different target solutions. And then that information can be given to an executive or whomever is going to be making the decision on kind of where is the money going to be spent to fix this problem. So in a fictitious world, we're going to take that safeguard from a very high to a very low. This is going to be the vulnerability of it. And say the life expectancy on this is 10 years. The installation cost of said lock is, let's say, $1,000. And the acquisition cost, maybe $5,000. It's a really nice lock. You can see the total cost of this can be $6,000, and we'll break that out over the 10 years that lock is good. Maybe that 10-year point is brought in by a policy that may be in place that this needs to get reassessed. The safeguard itself may need to be reassessed in a certain amount of time. So it's kind of up to you how you would be using that information to best suit your business needs. We can see here that the bank robber steals gold through went from a very high to a medium. We'll submit that. Probably deal with network loss again. Here we go. So we can now see that the affected risks have come down from very high to medium. I was just spitballing these numbers. However, if we were to change that authorizer's risk goal to say a medium, we would then see a little green check mark. Oops. By that recommendation. So that recommendation is in fact good to go. Implementing it, if we switch back to Homer, oh, not Homer, Roland. Sorry, some of our characters are straight out of The Simpsons. We can double check in on that, take a look at that recommendation. Let's kind of move our mindset forward a year. Maybe we're redoing the TRA on this, so we can come in, say, yes, our recommendation has in fact been implemented. This is wonderful. We can go in, edit that, and add in the appropriate safeguards. So for the sake of argument, maybe this jumps up to very effective, very effective. You see it dropping down to very low, and then the effects can be seen Here. I may be experiencing some network problems, sorry. So we've implemented our recommendation. Some other things I want to cover is that template. So from Homer's perspective, if we close our project, we've got this ITSG 33 PBMM control profile. The control profile is going to have been built up by Roland here. We have 169 controls and enhancements put in place, and we can switching gears pretty quickly here. So from the differences between the HTRA and the ITSG modes, we swap out our vulnerabilities for controls. The difference there is that the HTRA is going to look at safeguard as to how vulnerable it may be, and the ITSG 33 is going to look at that safeguard as to how robust that might be. So we do have this control catalog browser. This is our controls from our control catalog. We can pull them open, take a look at the base control. We can take a look at the enhancements to that. And this is a Canadian derivation of the NIST 853 catalog. Basically all of the controls that you see there have been Canadianized, and a few have been kind of modified in the description in the supplemental guidance that we'll see to suit the Canadian government's needs. So our user Roland has gone through that Canadian control catalog and selected out all of the controls that would make a PB medium control profile. We're interested in creating a template out of that, so that control profile can be propagated out to other users on the system, and they'll be able to pull all of that information in. So we'll simply call this PBMM control profile and submit that. And we can see that added here, PBMM control profile. So what we're going to do next is create a new project out of a template. So this ITSG 33 compatible thing, we'll see stay in place. We're going to use a template that I'd created previously for a system assessment. This is full of arbitrary information, but hopefully it'll show enough to give everybody the idea of the capabilities of this templating system. We'll create this, just title it simply from system template. We see that the mode has been locked out. So because the template was ITSG 33 compatible, automatically selects that, automatically selects our classification and the language. And we can create our authorizer's risk goal, define that and any of the other additional metadata there. We can see that this project has been created out of that template with 7 assets, 2 threats, 1 control, and 7 risks. And if we go in here and take a look at these risks, we see these little orange dots on everything. So that the risk has not actually been calculated at this point. So the fictitious scenario I'm kind of setting up here is that idea that I'm repeating a lot of the same work in my TRAs at that baseline all the way to the risk level. So maybe this system is very prevalent in our department, and we want to start at this point all of the time. This frees up the assessor to just kind of come in, take a look at everything, agree with maybe what's already there. Excellent. So the one item that needs to be defined in this scenario, in this this project to trigger all of those risks is this control. opening this up, we can see that it is slightly different than the threat or the vulnerability that we had defined in the previous project. We now have control definitions. This control currently has no enhancements. We can select the text in here and it will replace the information highlighted in red to actually define out how we have implemented this, this control. For now, I'm going to keep this ignore unfilled fields checked. This allows me to do kind of some legwork and find out what the scenario is going to come out as without defining that control yet. If I were actually assessing this for real, I would uncheck that and add in my definition information. Coming down here, we see robustness instead of the safeguard vulnerability dropdowns that we saw before. And the robustness can be defined with these word pictures. R1 is very easily exploited. R5, very difficult to exploit, for instance. And similarly, we've got prevention, detection, response, recovery. So in this case, sure, maybe I'm okay with that R1. We'll flip that to complete, save that. We can see that it pops out as very high. And when we hop over, all of our risks have been calculated. We can see that one of them is okay with our high watermark that authorizes risk goal, but the remainder of them are failing. They are risks that we need to mitigate. So similarly, in the other project, we could go through, come up with a recommendation to solve those problems, and then come back and implement them. And we can see that happening live just by bumping that up. We'll, again, fictitious world. This is the bottom to the top, probably not going to happen in the real world, but it drops down to very low. And then when we pop in here, we can see that all of the risks are now acceptable for our system. So currently Astra can export as a Excel or Word. I'm currently on a virtual machine with very little licensed software on it, but we can see some screenshots here just to give you an idea of what the output is. So the Word document that is currently output is very basic. It will populate tables under the sections. So threat assessment, here were our threats, but then it has kind of helper text to assist the individual in creating that executive report. Similarly, we have the Excel output, and this takes a mass data dump and populates sheets with all of the information that we had on all of the different sections in Astra. So we can see the overview, the asset, the threat. Here we are currently on the risk sheet. So this would be all the risks in that, that project that we had exported. So what's next for the project? We are currently working with the Learning Hub to provide a Astra-specific course that is upcoming in early 2024. We have our eyes set on some methods for improving that executive report generation. That's specifically focusing on that Word export. So where the documentation currently exports the information and then you have to populate everything. One of the methods that we'll be kind of implementing is that any recommendations on risks that are required to be mitigated, it will package that up into a neat little report and kind of give a one-pager for everything, so that it'll give you a push button executive report that can be handed out to anybody. We'll also be moving over to OSCAL support. The actual letters are failing me as to what they stand for at the moment, but this is a framework that has been developed by NIST for their control catalogs. We will be supporting that so that any OSCAL formatted control catalog can be imported and exported out of Astra. Industrial control systems and non-GC use will also be kind of brought in at that point, because you'll be able to provide your own control catalog and use it as you see fit. The publicization of this will also involve some customization to some of those word maps that I had showed under the robustness thing. So areas like the asset injury will be able to be customized so that an individual's company can put in a more personalized helper text in there. Right, and with that, we'll go to questions.
Wow. Okay. I'm just looking at what you've done here, thinking, where was this when I was doing HTRAs not that long ago? Okay. We've got a few questions here, so let's start off with that. Is there a way to populate Astra with a set of threats from a department's risk profile, i.e. empirical threats that should be considered for every assessment?
So at present, the Astra software would require you to create that threat profile inside of the application, but then you'd be able to save it out to a threat template, and your entire department would be able to use it. We are interested in automating everything we can, but to automate things, we need everybody using the exact same format. So hopefully the future is bright on that kind of mass consumption for the application. But at present, it's one of those, you do it once and then everybody can reap the benefits of your hard work.
Right. Another question we have is, is H-theory the only option, or can one import a more qualitative risk model?
Can't really change the risk model, so it's really built around HTRA. What we can change in the 33 variant is we can change catalogs. So if it's an OSCAL formatted catalog in the future, once we have the OSCAL part working, which shouldn't be too long, you would be able to take, you could use the 853 catalog or their variant for industrial control systems. And anything that's OSCAL formatted would be able to be imported as part of the control framework.
Right, right.
But we can't really change the math, right? So.
Okay. Are there any plans to support integration with computer-assisted audit tools to automate the collection of evidence of controls in an environment?
So that kind of goes back to my answer on that threat catalog and categorization. Yes, absolutely. Our goal with Astra is to relieve the assessor of as much work as we possibly can to make the assessment easier for them. So if we can automate asset collection, etc., we are absolutely interested in looking into that.
Okay, another question was, is it true that that the Astra tool has incorporated close to 1,000 IT controls? If possible, could it be shown from the tool?
Absolutely.
We have the full, ITST 33 catalog in there, which is every control and every enhancement.
Yeah. So I'm going to show this in two very quick ways, hopefully. So firstly, earlier in the ITSG thing, I was showing a PBMM control profile that I put together. So from a template, I can actually import items in. So I can grab, like I said, this is specifically the PBMM profile, but I can come in and of 169 of those, I could go ahead and grab all of them and import them into my project. So we'll hop back over to that and now see that we have 170 controls. So the controls are very tightly integrated into the Astra tool. We can see here from the control catalog browser, every family broken down into their controls and the enhancements associated with that control. And the addition of that OSCAL support will actually be able to swap out those control catalogs. So in the interest of industrial controls, we'll be able to bring in an industrial control catalog. So instead of seeing the ITSG 33 control catalog, you can supplement your own or supply your own.
Like if you had a burning desire to use the NIST 853 catalog, that would be possible as well, because they have an OSCAL format of that. And once we have the OSCAL import capability, you'll be able to just bring it in. Just so you know, the ITSG 33 catalog and the 853 catalog are basically the same. The 33 catalog is based on 853 Rev 4 currently. We will be, doing a new 33 catalog. Well, we're doing it right now. It'll be published probably later in the year, and that will be based on Rev 5. And then we'll be able to support both our, our version 2 catalog and our version 3 catalog, which, our version 2 is NIST version. We're 2 versions behind. Our numbers are 2 behind NIST. So our 2 is their 4 and our 3 will be their 5.
Cool. All right, another question we have is, is there a capability or plans to export to an enterprise modeling language or program?
Export what specifically?
That's a good, maybe that poster could clarify what they had in mind. So we'll go to the next question. So how do we get a copy of the Astra tool?
It depends on who you are.
Okay.
So the standalone version is actually on our Learning Hub website. And if you're a government department, you can get access to that right now. And as long as you're able to install on your desktop or workstation or wherever it is you want to put it, you need admin privilege to install it, obviously.
Right.
That's really the only barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the standalone version, which is the GUI is identical to this and functionally identical. There's a few features in the enterprise version that aren't currently in the standalone version, but they will be when we cycle back and upgrade the standalone to be in sync with the enterprise.
Okay.
If you want the enterprise version as a Canadian government department, basically need to come talk to us now and we can discuss various ways of getting it.
Mm-hmm.
There's essentially currently two approaches. We can give you the code and you can go off and have your own instance in your data center. Or we can put it on our high side network and make it available to you over the high side network.
Okay.
So if you're in the SNI community or something and you want access at that level, we can give that to you pretty quickly, actually. Like it's basically you ask us, give us a list of users, probably takes like a week or two to get it all configured, and you have bang your own virtual instance of Enterprise Astra for your department.
Yep. So for any Canadian government department, they can pretty much get a hold of the CCCS and
Yep.
You guys could chat offline and
Yep.
see what you can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want it on your network in your department, then that's obviously more work for you.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing the SANA for you. You have to do that for your department.
Gee, thanks.
We will provide the code, and we will provide instruction on how to install it and how to administer it.
Okay.
We'll give you the SANA evidence that we have, And if that meets your SANA assessor's needs, then you should be good. If they want more, then we'd have to talk about what more they would want. And keep in mind that I'm also the person who wrote ITSG 33, or one of the authors, and didn't write it by myself, but
Okay.
I led it and I still control the pen on it. And so if your SANA assessors want to have an argument with me over what's sufficient, well, we can go down that path, but you're arguing with the guy who wrote the book that you're using. So
there we go. Okay. Well, speaking of going down that path, let's talk about follow-on. So what happens insofar as, say, maintenance of this goes? So a government department gets this. Are we expected, or are you going to provide maintenance, or are we expected to look after this on its own? How does that work at this point?
So if you have your own instance, we would, if there's an issue, you would report it to us, and we would,
Okay.
look to fix the bug, and then, push an update. So no, you wouldn't have to do code maintenance on it.
Okay.
Unless you chose to change the code. If you change the code, then you would have to deal with that. But
oh god, no.
but I don't think most people want to change the code. I don't see a lot of people wanting to do that sort of thing. So
cool. And with regards to, you said the word, so I'm going to go there. With regards to updates, how often does this get updated by your shop?
Well, we're kind of new to deploying it to other people, so the updates have been internal to us.
Okay.
For the internal, our dev team runs on a 3-week cycle.
Okay.
So every 3 weeks we're pushing new code to it.
Cool.
Now, I'm not sure we would actually push an update every 3 weeks necessarily to live systems once we have them. We would probably bundle that up and say, every quarter or something, push a major update.
Okay.
If there was an actual vulnerability or something that needed to be fixed, then obviously we would push that quicker. Yeah,
no, because in the past I have had to use some automated tools. They looked good, they looked great, and then when it came time for the support aspect of it, that's when the bottom fell out. So this is great to hear.
We're also looking at integrating this with a tool that D&D has been developing. I get the acronym right. CDCPAC. Is that? So National Defense developed a SANA tool that covers the whole ITSG 33 lifecycle. At least that's what they're trying to do.
Wow. Okay.
It's still evolving. I wouldn't say it's finished. It's still work in progress. And we've discussed with their developer making Astra a plugin for the TRA module in their tool, because our Astra is got a lot more functionality in it than the TRA module that they currently have. So it would be swappable, right? So you could replace their module with our module and then integrate with the rest of their environment. So if their tool actually can collect things like assets, and so rather than having to enter, if you're in D&D, rather than having to enter the assets into Astra, you would just pull them from their tool.
Right. And that adds, that may bleed into our unanswered question. So there have been talks with us and other developers, and every once in a while we get asked the will you be supporting Archer question. So it's all on the table. If that does answer that question that was a little unclear to us, kind of management systems are certainly on our radar to integrate Astra into it, so that you can have a dashboard that this would output information to.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is fabulous.
So I'm just looking at the export question. So the way we deal with export right now is with that sort of thing would be through Excel. So if whatever tool you wanted to bring it to is capable of pulling stuff from an Excel formatted spreadsheet, that might work. But to do anything else, we would have to know the specifics of what it is you're trying to export to, right? So, I mean, it's a conversation we could have if someone has a particular place they want to export the data to, we could look at creating a means to do that. But without knowing what you want to go to, there's no real way to have a, what format would you put it in, right?
Yeah.
So this is this is what we're doing with the control catalogs, is we're using the OSCO format. So if you have an OSCO formatted control catalog, you'll be able to import it into our system. So the true would go the other way. If you wanted to export something, we need to have a defined format to do that export to.
Right. Okay. And another question that's popped up, Brian and Larry, how do we contact you for installation of the Astra tool?
For the standalone version?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Let's assume so.
So right now we're not making it publicly available, but if you're a government department, well, I guess the easiest way would be to send an email to the contact center and just asking that you're interested in having the Astra and specify the version, whether you want enterprise or standalone. The standalone version is easier to get. You basically just need an account on our Learning Hub, and then we need to know, who it is. So then we can add you to the access on the Learning Hub website, and then you'll be able to download it yourself from our website.
Okay. So it's just a matter of going to the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity webpage and getting a hold of the.
I forget our contact email, but it's on our website.
Okay.
I can find it if I just take a second here.
Follow-on question. Do you have the ability to export to Sparks EA? Sparks can consume CSV. We could create appropriate file formats from the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, so currently we export out to that Excel format. I know, because I've experimented this myself, you can create a CSV out of that Excel document. In the future, to kind of better integrate with other maybe web applications or networked applications, we'll be providing a JSON format as well.
Cool. All right. Yes, we have somebody asking for the contact information for the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity. So
I just put it in the answer there. I'm not sure where it went, but I just put in the contact email into one of the answers.
yeah, I see it. contact@cyber.gc.ca.
Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. All right. So with that said, I don't have anybody else asking any more questions. So we will conclude this afternoon's session. I would like to thank you both for attending today, and for you others that were sitting in the symposium as well. Thank you so much for this. Just a reminder, this session was recorded and will be available online. And next up, we got a bit of a coffee break, and at 2:30, we're going to have cybersecurity training in the Government of Canada with our speaker being Mr. Jonathan Joint. So again, gentlemen, thank you very much. And this concludes the session. Enjoy the rest of the coffee break, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
All right, tried to answer some of those.
Capability to import file formats from other threat modeling tools. Microsoft Threat Modeling Tool.
Did you have a question for us?
No.
No, okay. Sorry. I put my headset off and I heard something. I thought, oh, I heard someone talking.